Emily, it's pretty incredible. The market valuation of Apple, $444 billion. That is double the size of IBM. It's almost double the size of Microsoft. And for more on the size of Apple, we're joined from New York by Bloomberg contributing editor Nick Thompson. At $444 billion, Nick, it's getting close to your annual salary. Not quite there yet.
Not quite yet.
What do you make of this?
I think it's absolutely extraordinary, and we're seeing its ripples across the economy. We're seeing, of course, all sorts of people who are making lots of money off Apple, from app makers. We're seeing lots of its competitors get crushed. We're seeing people who can make products that sort of attach to Apple making money. It's an absolute phenomenon at this point.
Well, let's talk about that competitive reality. I mean, Halliburton, a big oil services company, comes out today and says, forget it, we're done with BlackBerries. We're giving all of our workers iPhones instead. And just for market purposes, just because we'd like to talk about the numbers, I mean, Apple now is about 52 times the size of Research In Motion's market valuation.
It's extraordinary. And in fact, what's happened is that Apple has become so big and become such a juggernaut that we've all become obsessed by it. And that, in turn, has allowed it to expand. I mean, the reason why the Halliburton IT department, or the reason why many corporate IT departments are switching, is because the customers all want to switch. It used to be that customers really didn't know anything about the phones they were given or the computers they were given. I mean, most people don't have any idea the choices that IT departments make, except the iPhone became such an iconic device that everybody went to their IT department and says, you've got to switch this to Apple. So this has happened across the world, and this is why RIM is getting torched.
And yet, it's not as if Apple doesn't have headaches. I mean, we're expecting some protests at Apple locations around the world tomorrow because of what's been going on at Foxconn. The workers, the controversy surrounding that. Foxconn, of course, the company that creates a lot of the products that Apple sells.
Right. It's kind of interesting. I mean, there are these protests, this long series that ran in the New York Times last week, sort of very vicious, very descriptive, very vivid story about the oppressive conditions in these Foxconn factories, and so people are starting to protest. But actually, it doesn't seem to be affecting investors that much, and the reason is that the stories also showed in vivid detail how ruthlessly efficient Apple is, how tough it negotiates, and how Foxconn is willing to do whatever they want. If they want a tiny adjustment to the screen, there'll be 7,000 employees shipped in on a bus the next minute, and everything will be done exactly as Apple wants. So it showed the power influence they have and how ruthless they are yet again.
Speaking of the tough negotiating powers of Apple, Sprint, the phone carrier, comes out today. Remember, they worked hard, and they were proud to say they were finally carrying the iPhone, and then their quarterly results come out and they say, oops, we took a $500 million additional charge this year because of the subsidies that we have to pay to offer the iPhone.
Right. Sprint, it's a very tricky, sort of funny, complicated situation where Sprint, of course, was very excited to get it, but every time they get an iPhone, they have to send money to Apple. And so they're in this weird position where they sold a lot of iPhones, which meant they had to pay a lot of subsidies, but they didn't sell enough iPhones to get people excited. So they had kind of the exact wrong number. Enough that it really hurt their bottom line, what they sent to Cupertino, and not enough to show that this is going to be a booming business for them.
Let's talk a little bit about Apple TV, because, if you have to ask the question, why is Apple stock going up every day? Yeah, you can point to the competition. Yeah, you can point to the growth in international markets. But it really feels that people are just getting psyched up about this idea of Apple TV. Does it not?
I think that's absolutely the case. I think one of the genius things that Steve Jobs did, whether he did it intentionally or not, was leak that little detail to Walter Isaacson in the book that he'd finally solved Apple TV. And so since that came out, this is some conversation with Isaacson in the summer. Since that's come out this fall, people have been like, well, wait a second, Apple TV, Jobs solved it. It must be awesome. And then we're starting to hear little details here, little details there, and it seems there's a lot of excitement that maybe they're going to put out something as good as the iPhone was. I mean, I'm not confident that will happen, but there's certainly a lot of buzz, and that's certainly helping this stock.
Building the buzz, helping the stock. Nick, thanks for helping us out, as you always do. Nick Thompson, Bloomberg contributing editor, joining us from New York. Emily, I'll send it back to you.